Namaskar to everybody. I'm extremely happy, as always, to be on Sangam Talks. So let me begin with a auspicious Mangala Charan in praise of Shiva. Ganga Taranga Ramaniya Jata Kalapam Gauri Nirantar Vibhushitavam Bhagam Narayana Priyam Anangamadapaharam Varanasi Purapatim Bhaja Vishwanatham. Varanasi Purapatim Bhaja Vishwanatham. Friends, we are going to approach a topic which in itself is not very pleasant, which is going to examine something which has gone wrong with our 70-year-old modern nation state. I'm not saying with our country or civilization, which, as you know, is thousands and thousands of years old, but I am saying the modern nation state of India. So, something that has gone wrong. And the title of this talk is Dusty Villages and Dying Cities. So, I'm going to talk about urban India and how urban India is a prominent feature of Indian life now, or the Indian state. And any drawback in it, or any suffering in it, is something which causes a lot of suffering in India as a whole. You see, once upon a time, we used to say, in my childhood, I was asked to write essays in school on it all the time. भारत गांवों में बसता है, भारत गांवों का देश है. Ours is a country of villages. Now, of course, that is true even today. But in reality now, after 70 years, ours is a city conglomerative nation state. The large cities, metropolitans, and the huge number of smaller cities or Kasbah cities, Mufassil cities, they are the ones where the bulk of it, not only the bulk of India lives, or perhaps maybe a little less than the bulk of India lives, but India that sets the tone of the modern uh, civilization of India. So it is a matter of great concern that we have dusty villages and dying cities. Not a very pleasant title of my talk, but I want to be realistic and I want to look at our faults for the very simple reason that if we love our country, we must take care of what is wrong with it. That is also part of nationalism, which some of us may tend to forget in our enthusiasm. How did this come about? Well, it's very easy to say that it's all a fault of Jawaharlal Nehru. In reality, that is the truth. But then, how did it come about? That is more important. Well, for the obvious reason that Jawaharlal chose the model of Soviet Union in the 5-year plan and the general development of the nation. And same mistakes were made in India, which were made in China. Which were made in Russia. That is, it was the Moscow, Petersburg, and various other cities, Leningrad, etc., which dominated the scene, which defined what was Russia, rather than the huge expanse. And therefore, after a certain time, so many regions of Soviet Union broke away and became separate nation. Now, of course, God forbid if any such thing happens to us, and we should be very careful about it, and for different reason it may happen. But the primary cause is that planning was city oriented. Planning was not village oriented. At this point, the Gandhians will rush in and simply say that, look, we told you, don't neglect Gandhi. Uh, Although on paper, in party, Jawaharlal Nehru was a disciple of Gandhi, but in practice he was not. And so he had a very different model. But even the Gandhian model, as so many of us, because of his Gram Swarajya and because of his various other concepts, think, even the Gandhian model was not something which really wanted to use the social structure of Indian society as it existed in the countryside and in the villages. At this point, I must point out that in India, throughout history, although we had a large number of uh, cities, the distance between the city and the village was not so great. Of course, there was city life, and sometimes it was the capital, and it was very sophisticated, and most of the wealth was in the cities. But everything that existed in the cities was being sustained by the villages constantly. It is not the post industrialization situation which we have all uh, which we have all studied in our history books, or something which happened from, let us say, earlier 20th century, and very rapidly after the country became independent with industrialization and modern technology. This was not the situation. The countryside was constantly and on a daily basis sustaining the city. And it's not that if you wanted to do something in the city, you could not live in the countryside. So the distance between the Nagara and the Gram, between the what was the citizen, Nagarik, cosmopolitan citizen, or what was called in Greece as somebody living in a polis and was a politis, somebody who lived in the city. That and the village was not the same in India as it was in Greece, because India was largely a middle class society. And the wealth of Indian middle class was in the hands of the people who produce the goods, the so-called workers, the so-called Shudras, according to the older classification of Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. You see, we have a very distorted notion of the working class or the people who work with the hands today. We think that they were all like Chandalas living somewhere on the fringe. Now, that's all nonsense. The people who were producing the wealth of India, they lived mostly in villages, entirely in villages, and a few of them lived in the city. So the village was constantly feeding the city, and the city was constantly feeding the village. So when you look at Arthashastra, then you will see that the Arthashastra is talking about an adhikshak, that is a high officer like the Secretary of the State in the present government, who would be visiting people in the villages as well as in the cities all the time of his area. So, the point I am making is that wealth was produced in the cities, and not just agricultural wealth, but education was in cities. The bulk of agraharas, or the bulk of ashramas, gurukulas, they were all outside the city. And according to the ancient system, in which you had the four ashramas, Brahmacharya, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas, the two of them were to be lived outside the city. You became Vanaprastha after you did your money making or you did what was necessary for the family. Then you went somewhere outside the city in either a gram or a one or a periphery, and you spent your time there. But you were not cut off with civilization. So this was a continuum. Now, this continuum, of course, was disturbed very badly in earlier Islamic times. I don't have time to go into the details as to how this happened, because the Islamic cities were also city oriented. The Muslim rulers, they had their capital and their cities more like cantonments, you know. Their capital was where their wealth and concentration and their bureaucracy lived. Now, the same thing was continued by the British, and the same thing continued with Jawaharlal Nehru and his socialist model. So, I, as somebody who has seen Delhi grow from maybe something like 100 offices into 100,000 offices, know this very well. And I have seen the great secretariat become huge and huge. And now we are going to have something much bigger, the central vista. So the whole bureaucracy being concentrated just around one place, this is the real model which came into existence after the ancient Indian model had been changed by the Islamic rule. So this was the divide already existing. Now, what I am saying practically is this, that today, if a villager has a land dispute, he cannot get it settled in his village or in a larger village or anywhere within 50 miles. He has to go to a small town. He has to go to a district court or a branch of the district court, Mufassil court. So you don't have justice available. You don't have education available. You used to have jobs available when land was something you could own. But as population grew in India, that also fell short, and people in huge numbers, as you know, moved to the cities. If you don't have education, if you don't have justice, if you don't have administration, bureaucracy visiting you, or the state being present there, then all you have is the police. And that's not a healthy relationship for a citizen, that the major representation of the state in the village is the local thana. You understand what I am trying to point out and how the big difference happened. Now, with Jawaharlal's whole notion, this thing became firmly entrenched. Of course, everybody will tell you, every political party will tell you that we brought water to the villages, we brought gas connection to the villages, we brought roads to the villages. But you see, this is the whole model. You are bringing roads from where? You're bringing roads from the big cities to the village. You are not making roads from village to the cities. You see the big difference? The whole model of development was not of doing things in the village so that the cities could benefit, so that the cities could be part of it. But everything, all modernity was in cities, and therefore modernity had to be distributed into the villages which were old, which were paramparic or traditional, or which did not know how to live in modern times. So you see, this big disjunct happened. Now, this disjunct is something which has caused dusty villages and therefore dying cities, because cities cannot sustain themselves. If they become too large, if they become dominant, then they crumble under their own weight. And we are seeing this phenomena now all over the world, not just in India. Just see what happened to New York last week. It's all flooded, swamped. Millions are without their daily activity now. So this is happening all over the world. And the primary reason is that the model has been inverted. Now, regarding the prosperity of the villages, what was the biggest reason why there could be no trade? Because the whole notion of what is it that gives you a living underwent a radical alteration and a perversion. I would say a perversion. Now you would know that till 30 or 40 years ago, in a village, there was a person for every need. So there was a carpenter, there was a barber, there was a fisherman, there was a school teacher, there was a person of profession right there. It's not as if the villages did not have all these professionals. It's not that the villages had only farmers or hunters or food gatherers of this kind, or just farmers. No. Villages had people of every profession. But what happened was that under the socialist and the modern model, we did not develop those professions. You see, when modernity came to India, according to Jawaharlal's model, then modernity displaced all the old professions. Not just the Pandit who would give you mantras and who would be giving you a little bit of Sanskrit knowledge, or who would be managing your village temple, or who would be making pravachan. Not just him that you targeted. It was not just him who was thought to be eased out of modernity, but every trade was eased out of modernity. The idea that there will be education of the Western liberal kind, in other words, it would be an education based upon books, based upon rote learning. It would not be an education based upon profession or skills. Now it is after 70 years that we are talking of developing skills. Unfortunately, we had forgotten it. So it's a very good thing that we are now thinking about it. But this is something which we allowed to die. When I say dying villages, then you allowed the village barber to die. You allowed the village fisherman to die. You allowed the mason. You allowed all those carpenters and all those people who were in a profession. Instead of educating them as professions, I mean, some people may like to use the word jatis. Okay, if you are allergic to use of the word jati, varna jati, carpenter jati, khatik, etc., then I'll just use the English words. But education was needed for them. Modernity was needed for them. A teaching of how to use more equipment, better equipment, how to do carpentry with new conditions, with newer technology, that was needed at the village level. And that is missing even today. Even today, our model of education, whether in the village or in the city, is the book and blackboard model. Now, of course, the book and the blackboard model has been replaced by, the mobile or the integrated screen. But then it is still that visual model of learning about things but not doing things, which was radically different. So, because we took a heavy top down model from the West and we imposed it in our cities, in our villages, we had a severe lack of productivity in the villages, and hence you had this huge amount of populations moving from the village to the city. Now, this is the general model I gave. This is the model of the economic distortion that happened. Now I'll give you the other cause. The biggest cause which has prevented people from asking for the right things and getting the right things is the vote bank politics. You see, in modern democracy, we made a very big mistake. We got entangled into the notion of equality, liberty, equality, liberty, and fraternity. These three great French values were imposed with a vengeance. And what happened that when you talk of a vote, you never think for a moment if the largest number of people who are going to vote would have the sense to vote correctly or not. But you just want the largest number of people to be your voters. And so there came a time, and this movement was started by BJP, by one of the leaders of the BJP himself, I think Advani ji, that the voting age should be reduced from 21 to 18. I don't remember which year it was done, but it was about 20 years ago. And at that time, the BJP thought that it would give them electoral advantage. And maybe, I don't remember, it did them for a while. But what it did was, it brought in a whole section of population from 18 to 21, which was, and will be always very volatile. Which means that they are emotional, they know not enough. And as it is in the modern world, which is very complicated, even 21 is perhaps not a mature enough age for you to vote. Then, when you vote at 18, then every senior school girl or school boy and every college student becomes a voter. And as a teacher at Delhi University, I have seen how this single act of lowering the voting age to 18 played havoc with the colleges and with, may not be so much with class 11 and 12, but at least with colleges. And it brought in uh, a whole generation of politicians who made the college campus into a training ground for entering the parliament. So, this democratic system of enlarging the voting voter population actually made our legislators weaker and weaker. And what you see now is a direction that democracy is taking, which is not very much in the interest of the state as a whole. With modern technology, just in last 5 years, the voter is now internationally influenced. He or she is not influenced just by local issues, but is swayed by all kinds of propaganda, which is available on electronic media and right through your mobile phone. And therefore, any section of voting population which is not mature is a danger for democracy and not a strength of democracy. So I personally think that the reason of mismanagement of all kinds, not only at the village level, but more so at the city level, the formation of those massive slums, disorganized areas, and now everything getting clogged, not just our roads and our sewage system in the monsoon, but everything in a big city getting clogged one time or the other. In one week it is clogged because of a political agitation, and another week it is clogged because of rain. On third week it is clogged because of some international conference and VIP movement. On fourth week it is clogged because of a railway strike. Then another week we have to suffer if there is an airline strike or something like that. So we experience a state which is spasmodically getting clogged. And this is largely because the populations have become volatile. And this is something we have to seriously think about. How do you prevent legislative immaturity? Because it is not just the immaturity of the leader or the compulsion of the leader that he or she has become a lame duck leader, that he or she is always held hostile by the larger number of voters. And in last 5 years, we have this trend that every politician say, मैं बिजली का आपको मुफ्त दूंगा, मैं पानी मुफ्त दूंगा, मैं आपको सब कुछ मुफ्त दूंगा. Now, this whole trend has started coming in India to the detriment of the fiscal situation of the country. So, this legislative immaturity is very, very unfortunate. And the third reason for the villages becoming underdeveloped and the cities becoming overweight, you know, in development. I mean, they have become so developed that they can be compared to huge, fat people who are all the time threatened with heart disease, diabetes, and blood pressure. Our cities are more or less like that. So, the major reason is that our in India, we were given a, a very schizophrenic kind of identity. On one hand, we were told that jati, varna jati, or caste is a thing of the past and it should be set aside. That you should marry when without thinking about your wife's caste. You should choose a partner. In marriage, it should not be endogamy or the old system. We should liberate ourselves. In all social relationship, caste should not have any factor. But when you go to vote, then you vote your caste. Before you cast your vote, before you cast your vote, you vote your caste. Now, this is a perversion which came in, and in my next lecture, I will address as to how this happened as a result of Western ethnography and ethnology and ethnic studies. But this is something which created a huge number of caste politicians and small caste leaders all over the country. And these people have not been able to think of the nation. They are only thinking of their vote bank based on caste. And this has created a very big problem, especially for the young. Why for the young? Because in last 20 years, Indian population has become very mobile. Young people want to leave their homes, their home state or their city and settle in another part of the country because they see a new life there, because they are adventurous. So somebody from New Delhi may want to settle in Chennai or in a smaller town in Madhya Pradesh, in Riva or somewhere. And with all this kind of state politics that goes on, where every state is living in a watertight compartment of restrictions based upon language, upon domicile laws, upon the difficulty of transferring your credits from one university to another, all kinds of even simple things like transferring your vehicle number. If you have a motorcycle or a car, then it takes 6 months to transfer your number, and then you must transfer your number. All these things are a result of this small thinking, not thinking about the nation as a whole. So, if on one side or at one level, we have used technology to radically change ourselves and become very mobile and to interchange and accept things from different parts of the country. Like dosa in Italy is no longer South Indian food, it is all India food now. So there are so many transformations which are taking place, but the politics of caste is something which has obstructed it. So, is in this lecture, I am talking and concentrated more upon some very serious legislative problems which are there constitutionally. I would like to emphasize that we have to think about caste not in terms of that which we have simply inherited, but we have to think it in terms of skills that we can develop. You see, all jati, all varna was economy based, and it was based upon your identity that you create through a profession. It was something which was based upon your skills. Now, instead of looking upon the skills, a politician doesn't look upon how he can benefit the engineers, how he can benefit the academics or the doctors or the lawyers or the judges. He doesn't think about how he can benefit the professionals or the artists or the painters or the dancers. You see, these are not the people he gives a damn about, but he will say, how many Brahmins are there? अब यूपी में वो सब हिसाब लगा रहे हैं कि कितने ब्राह्मण हैं, कहाँ हैं. So nobody is worrying about the people who are earning their living through skills. And if you support them as skilled people, then they would benefit and the economy would benefit. But on the contrary, we have got lost in this jungle. And it was a result of this that we had a very perverted system in which we wanted to keep linguistic states so that there could be units in which we could play this caste politics. You see, what is it that makes caste politics so easy and available? It is the division of our linguistic states. Now, as a matter of fact, the linguistic states themselves have become partially redundant. I'm told that in every big city like Calcutta or Bengaluru or Bombay or Delhi, maybe 20% or 25 or 30% people are non-native speaker to that particular language of the state. So if you take the case of Bengaluru, I'm told that maybe even up to 30% of population of Bengaluru city is non-Kannada speaking. And if we do a consensus on that, which is more important than a consensus of caste, I don't think a consensus of caste is required today. Of course, the politician want it because they have made it a basis of giving the goodies because of reservation. One understands that. I am only trying to point out that the states have become rather outdated. Because if you have 30% people in Bengaluru who don't speak Kannada, who are not native Kannada speaker, but from outside the state, then Bengaluru on the whole, not just Bengaluru, Karnataka on the whole is a state where you have a huge non-Kannada speaking population, and they now have made a reflection upon the very identity of the state. So the very identity of our states is something which has become questionable. And the new divisions that we are making, like we made Uttarakhand, we made Jharkhand, we made Telangana, were these very wise steps? Did they not actually benefit caste politics, if not anything else? So these are some of the big hurdles that have happened. And when I wrote this book, India, A Cultural Decline or Revival, these were some of the things dominant in my mind. As a matter of fact, this book, which was published in 2008, is a refurbishing of essays which I had been writing for the last 20 years, that is from 1995 onwards, something like that, or even earlier. Because in India, the real issues have not changed. For the past 40 years, the real issues have not changed. And the real issues are the ones which I just mentioned. our villages, they are still not looking after people who live there and practice a profession. And you still have people who inherit a profession, who are somehow struggling with that profession, who give up that profession and then finally move to a city slum. But if they are provided something at their very own level, then things would be radically different. So, this to my mind is the real reason why there is no development, why the villages are still dusty and the cities have become unmanageable and are almost dying. So, thank you very much for listening to me.
भारतीय जो सिविलाइजेशन था वह सबसे ज्यादा किस सिविलाइजेशन से इमुलेट करता था या सबसे ज्यादा मैच करता
कि भारत की संस्कृति, भारत की प्राचीनतम संस्कृति कौन सी दूसरी संस्कृति से मैच करती रही है? तो देखिए, मैं आपको एक बात बताऊंगा कि कुछ मानों में तो भारत की संस्कृति का चीन से या यूनान से या मिस्र इत्यादि से कुछ समानता रही है, लेकिन ऐसा नहीं है कि कोई बहुत बड़ी हमारी समानताएं हैं। हमारी संस्कृति बहुत विशिष्ट है और ये मैं किसी अहंकार से नहीं कह रहा, क्योंकि हमारे यहाँ जो व्यवस्थाएं थी वो हमने इतनी स्पष्ट रूप से बनाई थी कि दूसरे सभ्यताएं वो नहीं बना पाई। शायद इसीलिए हम एक प्रकार से इस कंटिन्यूटी में चल रहे हैं जबकि दूसरे नहीं चल पाए। और देखिए, जैसे एक दो चीजें ही बता देता हूं आपके, क्योंकि प्रश्न है और छोटा सा उत्तर देना है मुझे। जैसे भारत में हमेशा से एक बहुत बड़ा मिडिल क्लास रहा। ग्रीस में कोई मिडिल क्लास नहीं था, यूरोप में कोई मिडिल क्लास नहीं था, चीन के अंदर भी बहुत छोटा सा मिडिल क्लास था, जापान में भी। और जहां भारत गया और संस्कृति को उसने बहुत प्रभावित किया, थाईलैंड इत्यादि या कंबोडिया इत्यादि, जिनके आज के नाम है, पुराने नाम दूसरे हैं, तो वहां एक बहुत बड़ा मिडिल क्लास व्यवस्था पैदा हुई। अब ये एक बात रही। दूसरी बात, भारत में कला के प्रति एक बहुत बड़ी जागरूकता थी और हर चीज को कलात्मक बनाना, और इसलिए कि हर चीज को स्किल्ड बनाना। जैसे गीता में कहा है योगा कर्मसु कौशलम, तो भारत में ये तो था ही, सबसे अच्छी बात थी कि योगा कलासु कौशलम, हर चीज को कलात्मक बनाना। अब ये भी एक हमारी बहुत बड़ी उपलब्धि थी और हमारी संस्कृति की पहचान थी। इस तरह से बहुत सारी चीजें हैं जो, फिर हमारा समाज ऐसा था कि उसके अंदर अत्याचार को रोकने के बहुत सारे सैद्धांतिक तरीके थे जो कि बना दिए गए थे। जैसे आप राजा विजय करेगा तो शहर में आग नहीं लगाएगा, लूटपाट नहीं करेगा। हाँ, कभी कभी कुछ राजाओं ने कर दी, उसके रिकॉर्ड भी हैं, लेकिन प्रायः ऐसा मना था, धर्मशास्त्रों में मना था। कुछ धर्मों की किताबों में तो लिखा है कि आप औरतों को बंदी बना लीजिए, गुलाम बना लीजिए, मर्दों को और बच्चों को, लेकिन भारत में तो उसके ठीक विपरीत लिखा है कि प्रजा को छूइए नहीं, केवल राजा अगर लड़ता है तो उसे मारिए और जीतिए, और उसके बाद उसका राजकोष आप ले सकते हैं, लेकिन प्रजा में लूटपाट नहीं करेंगे। तो ये आपके प्रश्न पर एक जवाब है।
क्या वो हमारे कल्चर पर एक सिस्टमैटिक बहुत ही भीतर का आघात था?
देखिए, आप जो बात कह रहे हैं वो बिल्कुल सही बात है। इस समय भारत की संस्कृति पर बहुत प्रकार के अटैक्स हो रहे हैं और बड़े सूक्ष्म रूप से हो रहे हैं। आपका ये कहना बिल्कुल सही है कि भारत पर क्या, अमुक जो उदाहरण दिया वो कल्चर पर अटैक था। अब आज तो भारत के कल्चर पर कई प्रकार के अटैक्स हैं। मैं तो समझता हूं कि सारा बॉलीवुड भारत के कल्चर पर एक अटैक बन गया। हमारी अधिकांश शिक्षा पद्धति ह्यूमैनिटीज में भारत के कल्चर पर एक अटैक बन गई है। हमारे देश में जो सरकार ने मंदिरों को सरकारी शिकंजे में रखा हुआ है और इसमें भारतीय जनता पार्टी पूरी तरह से शामिल है, जैसे कांग्रेस थी, उसने भारत की सांस्कृतिक विरासत को वैसे ही रौंदा हुआ है जैसा कि इस्लामिक राजाओं ने मध्यकाल में रौंदा था, और वो वैसे ही हिंदुओं की संपत्ति का दुरुपयोग कर रहे हैं जैसा कि मुसलमान एक जमाने में करते थे। आज हमारे लोग कर रहे हैं, हमारी राजनीतिक पार्टियां कर रही हैं, और हम लोग ही विरोध करके और आवाज उठाकर उनसे ये नहीं कहते कि हमारे मंदिर हमको दो, हम उसे चलाएंगे, आप कौन होते हो। हमारी हमारी संस्कृति अलाउ नहीं करती। राजा कभी मंदिर नहीं चलाता था। राजा मंदिर बनाता भी था तो उसको चलाने के लिए समितियां बना देता था, और उसकी परंपरा और आगम शास्त्र और सब व्यवस्थाएं हुआ करती थी। तो अटैक्स तो देखिए बहुत बड़े हैं, और उसी कारण से चूंकि मंदिरों के ऊपर हमारा अधिकार नहीं है, तो हमारी पूरी शिक्षा और संस्कृति हमारे हाथ से जा चुकी है। अंग्रेजों ने यह काम सन 30-35 में शुरू कर दिया था, और आज कोई राजनीतिक पार्टी नहीं है, कोई, मैं बड़े स्पष्ट शब्दों में कहता हूं, आज कोई भारत का नेता नहीं है जो इस बात को गहराई से समझता हो।
अविचल रघुवंशी जी क्या चाणक्य के अर्थशास्त्र से भारतीय ग्रामीण और नगर व्यवस्था को सुधार सकते हैं? किंतु कहीं अगर लोग इस व्यवस्था को पुराना कहकर नकार ना दें।
आपने ये प्रश्न पूछा है कि क्या अर्थशास्त्र जो चाणक्य का है उसकी जो आर्थिक व्यवस्थाएं हैं या जो उसमें इकोनॉमिक्स दिया हुआ है उसका कोई आज लाभ है या नहीं। देखिए, बहुत लाभ है। लाभ जो होता है वो इस प्रकार से नहीं होता कि वहां जो लिटरली लिखा है आप उसको वैसे ही कर दें। आपको ये लेना पड़ता है कि वो सिस्टम क्या था। अब आज आप अधीक्षक बनाएंगे, यानी कंट्रोलर जिसको कहते हैं, कंट्रोलर ऑफ दिस, कंट्रोलर ऑफ दैट, तो वो कंट्रोलर जनरल, आज की भाषा में उसके कुछ और नाम होंगे, तो वो दूसरे प्रकार से सिलेक्ट होंगे, लेकिन सिद्धांत तो वही होगा जो चाणक्य ने बताए हैं कि किनको आप बेस्ट ऑफिसर बनाएं और कैसे उन हाईएस्ट ऑफिसर का सिलेक्शन करें, कैसे ब्यूरोक्रेसी का सिलेक्शन हो, वो सिद्धांत तो वही होंगे। आधुनिक काल में आप उसका प्रयोग करेंगे, उसके अंदर आपको आधुनिक समय को लेकर करना होगा, लेकिन सिद्धांत तो वही होगा कि वो भारत की संस्कृति को जानते हो, उनको कुछ अनुभव हो। ऐसा नहीं है रट रटा के आ गए, इम्तिहान के अंदर एक लिस्ट बन गई, जिससे मर्जी आई टॉप पे अगर जो है तो वो चला गया फॉरेन सर्विस में, नहीं तो चला गया वो क्या कहते हैं आईआरएस रेवेन्यू सर्विस में। तो ये जो गड्ढमड्ढ सिस्टम है अंग्रेज का बनाया हुआ, जिसका लक्ष्य जो था वो केवल शासन करना था और खून चूसना था भारत की जनता का, जिसको आज तक हम नहीं हटा पाए हैं, कोई सरकार शायद सोच भी नहीं रही है उसको हटाने की आज तक। तो अगर आप चाणक्य को देखेंगे, उसने बिल्कुल स्पष्ट रूप में कहा है कि क्या कमियां होती हैं कायस्थों में, यानी ब्यूरोक्रेसी में, किस प्रकार से वो रिश्वत लेने के आदी होते हैं और उनके लिए कौन से साधन होने चाहिए उनको कंट्रोल में रखने के। ये सारी चीजें हमें आज भी हम, और बहुत सारे सिद्धांत हैं। टैक्सेशन, चाणक्य ने 15% से ज्यादा टैक्स करने की इजाजत नहीं दी है। आपातकाल में भी 15% टैक्स होगा। आज तो 50-60% टैक्स है अगर आप इनडायरेक्ट टैक्सेशन को ले लें तो। कुछ ऐसे एरियाज थे जिसमें टैक्स हाई था, लेकिन उसमें सरकार दान बहुत करती थी, पब्लिक बेनिफिट बहुत करती थी, जैसे गोवंश इत्यादि के प्रचार में। तो इस प्रकार से अब उसके ऊपर एक अलग ही लेक्चर करना होगा, अलग ही व्यवस्था करनी होगी।
अगर अंग्रेजी शिक्षा को हटाकर गुरुकुल शिक्षा व्यवस्था वापस लाएं तो सारी परेशानी दूर हो सकती है? कृपया विश्लेषण करें।
आपका ये प्रश्न है कि क्या गुरुकुल व्यवस्था को अगर हम ले आएंगे तो हमारी समस्याओं का हल हो जाएगा। देखिए, गुरुकुल व्यवस्था एक पुरानी अर्थव्यवस्था के अंदर काम करती थी और गुरुकुल व्यवस्था में जो शिक्षा दी जाती थी वो उस समय की अर्थव्यवस्था के लिए पर्याप्त थी, क्योंकि जिसको आज हम सेकेंडरी एजुकेशन कहते हैं या हाई स्कूल तक की जो एजुकेशन कहते हैं वो घरों में ही सबको दे दी जाती थी। 12 साल की उम्र तक एवरेज बच्चा भारत में घर के अंदर ही अपने माँ बाप से सीखता था, चाहे वो कहार का हो, चाहे धुनैये का हो, चाहे मछुआरे का हो, चाहे वो एक सेनापति का हो, चाहे किसी वेद पाठी ब्राह्मण का हो। एवरेज अराउंड 10 इयर्स तक तो वो रहता ही था। एवरेज की बात कर रहा हूं, भेद था उसमें, लेकिन 3/4 शिक्षा उसको घर पे मिल जाती थी। और ये जितने भी आजीविका के लिए उपक्रम थे, यानी प्रोफेशनल एजुकेशन थे, ये सब घर पर मिल जाती थी। फिर हायर एजुकेशन के लिए वो लोग जाते थे जिनको वेद शास्त्र काव्य इत्यादि सूक्ष्मता से पढ़ने हैं, जिसको आप रियली हायर एजुकेशन कहते थे। और उसके ऊपर भी बड़ी स्ट्रॉन्ग गेट कीपिंग थी, हर एक को नहीं दिया जाता। आज हमारे सिद्धांत अलग है। आज हम वो व्यवस्था नहीं है, वो अर्थ व्यवस्था नहीं है कहीं भी दुनिया में। तो आज आपको शिक्षा वही देनी पड़ेगी जिसको कहते हैं कि सबको शिक्षा सुलभ हो, सब जाएं, सबको अधिकार हो और 11वीं 12वीं क्लास तक स्कूल जाना पड़ेगा। आज तो माँ बाप ही घर में नहीं रहते, तो वो सिखाएंगे क्या आपको? बच्चे को आप आज तो आप बच्चे को डे केयर में भेज देते हैं, 2 साल के बच्चे को। तो आपको ये देखना है कि अब एक नई व्यवस्था प्रणाली बनानी होगी, लेकिन हाँ, पुरानी शिक्षा के जो सिद्धांत थे, जो मूल्य थे, आपको उन्हें लेना होगा। तो पुराने मूल्य ये थे, चीजों को बर्बाद मत करो, विनयशीलता रखो, सीखो, बड़ों का आदर करो, ये मानो कि हमें हर तरह की जिम्मेदारी लेनी है। अधिकार से बड़ा जो है वो धर्म होता है। मेरी जिम्मेदारी क्या है, मुझे समाज को देना क्या है, जब मैं ये करने लगूं तब मैं पूछूं कि मेरा अधिकार क्या है। तो ये जो वैल्यू है इसको हमें वापस लाना होगा। आज जो वैल्यू है, एवरीबडी हैज राइट्स, चिल्ड्रन हैव राइट्स, होमोसेक्सुअल है, एवरीथिंग इज इन टर्म्स ऑफ राइट्स। Now that is something we have to change. You can't have this whole system of only asking from the state to do everything for you.
First of all, thank you so much for interesting lecture. I really enjoyed it. We often talk about just symptoms, but today this lecture was very different. To talk about the root cause, and I could relate with so many things. The first point that you talked about how the cities were sustained by village. Now, as the roads are constructed, it is happening the other way around. That really touched home. One point that you talked about, wherein we said we are never taught about our political parties, and you're right. Age group from 6, you can say 15 to 21, 22, they're very volatile. They would pick up something where they see no restriction, and somehow the left ideology looks like an interesting aspect for them. But then, if you think that if our kids are taught about the Indian politics, what will we teach them? We don't have anything definite. We don't have anything called a Democrat for life or a Republican for life. We have people who are in one political party today, which is probably left to center, and then next day they are right. If we were to teach our children that this is how the Indian politics is, so that they can be more sensitized, understand whom to vote for, do you think that is possible in our setup? That's first question number one.
You see, you have raised a very fundamental question. And the question, if I can summarize all the comments that you made, if I can summarize, is this: that what is going to be the approach of creating the values of a citizen in modern India which are different from the values of, let us say, Western societies or Western consumerist model. बेसिकली आपका सवाल ये है, तो अब इसके उत्तर में what I have to say is this: yes, we have to stand up and say that our values are entirely different. Yes, we follow democracy. We will not become monarchy. We will not have Islamic State return as 54 Islamic states are going back to Sharia. No, we will go forward. We will keep modernity, but our values would be different. The values would not be consumerism. The values would not be enjoyment. They would be a balance. They would be a balance between dharma, artha, kam, and moksha. They would be a balance between responsibility and asking for things from the state. Today, I want the state to give me everything, but I want to give nothing to the state except taxes. Once I have paid my taxes, then I go to the rooftop and keep shouting, why have you not given me this? So I want to do everything. I want to get drunk and drive a car into a lamp post. And then when I go to a hospital, then if there is some problem with the doctor, then I blame the state for it. But I forget that it was I who caused the accident. I mean, this is a metaphorical example. एक रूपक मैंने आपके सामने रखा. Now we have to change that. And that will be changed by changing our cultural and educational values. जो हमारे स्कूल में, कॉलेजों में, समाज में, मंदिरों में, संस्थाओं में, आश्रमों में, मस्जिदों में, मदरसों में, सब में करना होगा. So we have to change entirely different. We have to give an entirely different set of values to the people. If we don't, then we will sink along with other Western societies. In last 2 years, with the rise of Corona, we have seen what a great disaster has happened. Nobody knows why Corona happened, where it happened, and this is a confusion prevailing in the so-called age of science, so-called age of information. So it is actually a confusion caused by lack of values, lack of honesty. This is my answer.
So if I have to quickly summarize, what you're saying is that we have to teach our children not to look for BJP, Congress, or for that matter, regional parties. Teach them our values and teach them that go and look for these values. And if the party or the person represents these values, then go and vote for them. Rather than, BJP so means blind faith for them, Congress means extreme hatred for them. That should not be there. Thank you.
Exactly. I mean, you see, political parties don't matter. I mean, there have been empires which are not remembered today, let alone political parties. किसी बीजेपी या कांग्रेस की क्या औकात है, इतिहास में उनका स्थान बनेगा नहीं बनेगा. ये जो भारत के मूल्य हैं, आप उनको देखिए ना.
Sir, my second question is, you very correctly said that linguistic states have become redundant. Do you think that is the reason why it's like a last battle where we hear in East about Bengali Asmita, then in South we hear about Tamilian state, Tamil is older than Sanskrit, it is more relevant than Sanskrit. So now the political parties they have this last battle wherein they are trying to, trying to keep the people there and make them relevant. And this is one reason why they oppose everything. So this is one. And linked to this is, do you think this, because of this, now, because they don't have this jati politics, now they're getting into the religious politics. So you hear about temple destruction in southern India. You hear about temple takeover. So is it because they don't have this jati factor to do politics on? Now they have come to the now they have started taken religion as a hostage. Do you think that is the case?
Well, your first question is that if Jati politics has receded, then has linguistic politics or regional politics based upon linguistic identities taken over? This process, you're right, is there now, very strong, but the seeds of it were laid very early, even before independence, when Jawaharlal Nehru wanted to make linguistic states. He declared it in 1935 in a Congress working committee that they will go for that. And we should not have made linguistic states, that's what I think. But how do we get out of it? I think it is the young people who will have to point out that just as caste endogamy is no longer viable, कि आप अपनी जात की लड़की से लड़के से ही शादी करेंगे, जैसा अब ये आज आधुनिक समाज में संभव नहीं है और जैसे हमने उसको पीछे छोड़ दिया है, इसी तरह से लिंग्विस्टिक फॉर्मेशन ऑफ द Indian states has to be reconsidered, and we have to make a fresh division of Indian states on other basis, or at least we have to make the present linguistic states more multilingual. जैसे कर्नाटक की केवल कन्नड़ नहीं, कन्नड़ के साथ मराठी और तेलुगु भी उसकी भाषा हो, हर प्रांत की 2 या 3 भाषाएं, तो उसकी आइडेंटिटी को एनलार्ज करना है, जिससे कि वो भारत के अंदर अपनी ही अस्मिता को न ढूंढे बल्कि भारत की अस्मिता की तरफ बढ़े। ये मेरा कहना है और मैं समझता हूं कि नौजवान लोग आप जैसे इसको समझते हैं, समझेंगे और ये एक ना एक दिन होगा, क्योंकि भारत में हमेशा से एक बहुभाषीय समाज रहा है और वो बहुभाषीय समाज ही भारत की सच्चाई है और हमारे नेता भी जब उसकी सेवा करेंगे बहुभाषीय समाज की, तो उनकी भी तरक्की होगी।
नमस्ते भरत जी।
नमस्ते।
मेरा बहुत ही एक विचार है जो आपके सामने रख रहा हूँ
जी।
कि मुझे लगता है कि ये जो आपने डिस्क्राइब किया पूरा गांव का अभी कैसा हाल है और शहर किस तरह से धीरे धीरे डिक्लाइन की तरफ जा रहे हैं, और मैंने खुद भी देखा है, मैं बहुत छोटे टाउन में बड़ा हुआ हूँ, तो मैंने देखा है कि अभी वो उसमें कितना अभी मतलब उसमें कोई इम्प्रूवमेंट नहीं आया है, सिर्फ वो नीचे ही जा रहा है। बट मुझे लगता है उसका एक बहुत बड़ा रीजन ये है कि अभी जो आजीविका के साधन है वो अभी इस तरह के हो गए, वो बहुत ही अलग हो गए हैं पहले के समय से, जिसकी वजह से अभी एक एग्रीकल्चर के अलावा और एग्रीकल्चर से जो भी संबंध चीजें हैं और जो भी व्यवसाय या आजीविका साधन है, उनको अगर आप छोड़ दें तो बाकी सब कुछ के लिए अभी लोगों को सिटीज की तरफ जाना पड़ता है, और इसीलिए शायद गांव में इतना सारा प्रॉब्लम हो गया है और छोटे शहर तो सारे ही मतलब पूरा एक डिक्लाइन की तरफ जा रहे हैं, और कंसंट्रेशन जो है जो आजकल के आजीविका के साधन है उनका बहुत ज्यादा बड़े शहरों में हो गया है, और शायद यही मेरे हिसाब से एक कारण है कि ये हो रहा है। तो आपके विचार सुनना चाहूंगा मैं उसके बाद।
देखिए, आपका प्रश्न यही है कि गांवों में आजीविका क्यों नहीं है, आज क्यों नहीं है, और इसका प्रबंध जब देश आजाद हुआ तो क्यों नहीं हुई। तो अपने इस व्याख्यान के प्रारंभ में ही मैंने कहा कि गांवों में जितने भी प्रकार की जातियां थी वो व्यावसायिक जातियां थी, हमने उनको वही स्किल डेवलपमेंट नहीं दिया उनकी जातियों में, हमने उनको ब्लैक बोर्ड दे दिया और उनको फटे पुराने क्या कहते हैं फर्श पर बिठा दिया, कच्चे फर्श पर, और कहा कि यहाँ स्कूल की शिक्षा हो। तो ये जो बहुत बड़ी समस्या है, ये पूरी की पूरी समस्या हमारी अपनी बनाई हुई है, और हमने शिक्षा पद्धति को, पश्चिम की शिक्षा पद्धति को आंख मूंद कर अपना लिया है। मेरा तो ये कहना है कि आप कुछ और सिखाएं ना सिखाएं, हाँ सिखाएं, बहुत कुछ सिखाएं, लेकिन क्लास 6ठी से लेकर 12वीं क्लास तक 7 वर्ष हर स्कूल के अंदर 1 या 2 आजीविका सिखाने का प्रावधान होना चाहिए, और 7 वर्ष में लड़की या लड़का ITI लेवल की उसके अंदर क्षमता पैदा हो जाए, और देश के सारे स्कूलों में 250 या 300 इस प्रकार की आजीविकाएं चिन्हित की जाएं, आइडेंटिफाई की जाएं, जो अलग अलग स्कूलों में कहीं 1 कहीं 2 सिखाई जाएं, और उस इलाके के और उस प्रांत के हिसाब से वहां लोगों की क्या जरूरत है। तो अगर उड़ीसा के क्या कहते हैं समुद्र का किनारा है, तो वहां आप थोड़े से मछुआरे बनाइए, और मछुआरे का मतलब ये नहीं खाली मछली मारेंगे, वो बहुत कुछ जानेंगे कि मछलियों की नाव कैसी होती है, उनका व्यापार कैसा होता है। 7 साल में आप ये सब सिखाएंगे उनको। तो ये व्यवसाय की शिक्षा हमें देनी है, उसके साथ आप संगीत भी दिखाइए, नाटक भी सिखाइए, कुछ भी सिखाइए, विज्ञान भी सिखाइए, इतिहास भी सिखाइए, उसके बारे में ये बहस भी कर लीजिए कि आर्य आए थे या नहीं आए थे, लेकिन कम से कम ये तो सिखा दीजिए 7 वर्ष तक। तो मेरा तो हमेशा से यही सुझाव है, लेकिन लगता नहीं कि हमारे कमीशन और हमारे न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसीज और ये सब विचार अभी भारत के नेतृत्व में अभी ये विचार है भी कहीं। इसकी थोड़ी बहुत चिंता होती है, स्किल डेवलपमेंट के नाम पर इसका यशोगान होता है, लेकिन इसको व्यवहार में लाना ऐसा मुझे नहीं लगता कि अभी संभव हो पाएगा, क्योंकि सोच ही नहीं। आपने बात बिल्कुल सही कही है।
I mean, I was wondering how correct is it for anybody to critique politicians on having these vote banks and going on the basis of caste or region or language and so on, when our constitution itself makes a distinction between citizens based on their group identity, because our constitution does not refer to individuals, it refers to minorities, it refers to scheduled castes, scheduled tribes. So it refers to people by their group identity rather than as individuals. Don't you think this is a structural problem that is far more than mere politicians politicking?
I agree with you entirely, and I did not touch upon this particular aspect for the simple reason that this is a very deep subject, and I would want to give a lecture on this forum on the constitutional fault line, if I may say so, of dividing society into majority, minority, without even making a definition of minority, calling the second largest majority as minority, and then giving them special rights which are not given to the majority. So, as a person who, along with Rahul Diwan, was very active in establishing once upon a time Hindu Charter of Demands, I am entirely dedicated to that very sensitive area and that problem. So I agree with you that this is a constitutional fault line. I agree with you entirely. It's the constitution which makes it possible for politicians to play this havoc which they are doing.
What would have been the ideal national language? A. B. The official language. 3. The medium of instruction. One question. Number 2, my question is half answered by you. One question was, what would have been the alternative to linguistic states? You've already said have a state with 3 languages, just like Switzerland has German, French, Italian, and Romansh. But then I don't know how they work it out. How would you they have the language of communication? So that is the next question. And third is, across capitalism, communism, and socialism, the economic model of development is the cities as engines of growth,
Right.
which is totally, if you ask me, it is disastrous, as you just brought out.
I agree with you.
So, what would have to be the economic model that you propose? You meaning, I mean, which would be a better model to follow, other than the cities as engines of growth? And fourthly, so just a minute, can you cite, just for the sake of academic interest, any country in the world which has followed any other model? I'm sure there are hardly any, but you, with your knowledge, you would be knowing some, which we can follow as an economic developmental model, which doesn't follow the cities as engines of growth, and yet which is technologically superior, economically advanced, education advanced, and every way advanced, which you can quote. I hope you want me to quickly go over all the questions?
No, National
language, official language, everything. National language.
Yeah. No, I'll be able to give you short answers to each of your questions. Now, I don't know exactly a model to follow which country, but my submission always is, why have the need for a model? Why don't we make our model? And why don't we make our traditional model, as I said in the beginning of this lecture, that for us, the village and the city were inseparable. We did not look down upon and we did not govern everything from the city. Of course, the king lived, the bureaucracy lived, but then the whole economy was managed by people living in the villages. And the cities were dependent on them rather than vice versa. So, and we can recreate that model. Every state can recreate that model. Make the non-city, the area outside the city, the engine of growth. So that's the answer to this last question. Now, regarding the language, you see, by default, English has continued because Indians have not been able to agree upon a language. For a while, till 1940 or so, people from the south also, like C. Rajagopalachari, etc., they had all agreed upon Hindi. Then there was a very viable suggestion of making simple Sanskrit, very simple Sanskrit as the language of India. Now, personally, I think that would have been the best, not just because I'm a classicist and I have a fascination for Sanskrit, but because then no Kannada speaking or Bengali or Marathi would say, my language is not in any way less than Hindi. You see, the reason why Hindi, which had been once accepted, has not been accepted for the very simple reason that other languages, which are, as a matter of fact, even richer than Hindi, and which have a longer literature, and what you call Khadi Boli is only 150-year-old language. Hindi Urdu, this Khadi Boli, जिसमें अभी हम बात करते हैं, this is only 150 years old. So it is the youngest of languages. So any Marathi will say, at least my literature goes back to 400 years or 500 years. Now, we have to agree upon certain things. But I think the solution will not come by making a deliberate decision, but through practice. I think eventually highly Sanskritized Hindi is going to take over because that is linguistically the most feasible thing. Sanskritized Hindi means, or Sanskritized Malayalam, or Sanskritized Bangla, all Indian languages in the early 20th, late 19th century and early 20th century imbibed upon the thesaurus or the word, the treasure of words in Sanskrit, tatsam shabdas, and they created their new idiom. The Bengali that you read today was not existing in 17th century or 18th century. Just as Tulsidas wrote in an Avadhi 400 years ago. It's not the same language as Sumitranandan Pant's language. So all modern Indian languages have recreated themselves through Sanskrit. ये फैक्ट है. आप मलयालम देखिए, आप कन्नड़ देखिए, जब आप फॉर्मली कन्नड़ में भी कुछ लिखते हैं तो सबसे अधिक आप संस्कृत के शब्दों को लेकर उनको कन्नड़ में डालकर लिखते हैं. एम आई रॉन्ग? ऐसे ही बांग्ला में होता है और तमिल में भी ऐसे ही होता है. और एक चीज ये भी है कि इस देश के 70-80% लोग हिंदी समझते हैं, बोलते नहीं हैं. बोलते तो 40% है, 30-35-40%, लेकिन समझते 70-80% है. और वो सब संस्कृत शब्दावली के ऊपर आधारित है. तो चाहे सरल संस्कृत, चाहे हिंदी with a heavy dose of Sanskrit, that's the only option. And every language itself is going to depend more and more on Sanskrit. अब यहाँ एक चीज समझाने की जरूरत है that you see languages have been used throughout the history of mankind for different purposes. ये आज मॉडर्न लिंग्विस्टिक स्टेट की डिमांड होती है कि मेरी लैंग्वेज में सब कुछ होगा. That my language becomes my tilak. Everything is according to that language. So this is the reason why the modern nation state was born. In this very book, I have a whole chapter on, and I explain how यूरोप में जर्मन स्टेट बना, जर्मनी के आधार पर, फ्रेंच के आधार पर, उसी के आधार पर लिंग्विस्टिक स्टेट्स इंडिया में बने. अब ये फंडामेंटली रॉन्ग है. हमारे देश में कर्नाटक म्यूजिक की भाषा तेलुगु थी, तो कोई कन्नड़ में भी रहता था, कोई तमिलनाडु में भी रहता था, तो वो कर्नाटक म्यूजिक में वो तेलुगु के अंदर, त्यागराज ने तेलुगु में लिखा, पुरंदर दास ने पुरानी मराठी में लिखा या कन्नड़ में लिखा. तो भाषा का प्रयोग लोगों ने तरह तरह से किया. मध्यकाल में आप देखेंगे लोगों ने अलग अलग प्रकार की भाषाओं में लिखा. तो ग्रंथ साहब देखेंगे तो उसके अंदर कम से कम 7-8 भाषाएं. लेकिन कोई ये नहीं कहता कि मेरी भाषा में ग्रंथ साहब का अनुवाद कर दो, पटियाले वाली पंजाबी में कर दो जी. वो आप उस जिसमें उसकी रचना हुई है, जिसमें वो पवित्र शब्द हैं, आप उसका आदर करते हैं और प्रयोग करते हैं और उसको अपना समझते हैं. तो जब आप इस तरह से भारत की सारी भाषाओं को अपना समझेंगे और लिंग्विस्टिक स्टेट्स के आधार पर बटेंगे नहीं, और जब आप संस्कृत को भी अपना समझेंगे, क्योंकि संस्कृत भाषा में अधिक साहित्य है किसी और भाषा की बनिस्बत. 3-4 हजार साल का, 5,000 साल का साहित्य संस्कृत भाषा में है, ऋग्वेद से लेकर 17वीं शताब्दी तक. तो जब आप ये सब समग्रता को देखेंगे और हर भाषा को सरस्वती का स्वरूप समझेंगे. हमारे यहाँ वाणी का महत्व है. वो वाणी किस प्रकार की वाणी है, गांव की है या शहर की है, वो रईस की है या गरीब की है, इसका महत्व नहीं है. वो सब सरस्वती है, वो सब वाणी है. वाण्य का समलंकरोति पुरुषम, और वो वाणी ही पुरुष को अलंकृत करती है. तो जब हम ये समझेंगे तो सारी भाषाओं का आदर होगा, प्रयोग होगा, और कन्वीनियंस के हिसाब से आप कहेंगे चलो ये लिंक लैंग्वेज. तो ये बुद्धि हमको बनानी चाहिए, सारी थिंकिंग बदलनी चाहिए। आज थिंकिंग है मेरे स्टेट की भाषा सर्वश्रेष्ठ है। अब आपको समझना चाहिए कि ये स्टेट ही आपके गले में सबसे बड़ा सांप लटका हुआ है, इस स्टेट को ही खत्म कीजिए ना।
सर मेरा एक प्रश्न ये है कि जो अभी सुप्रीम कोर्ट हर एक विषय में अपनी टांग अड़ा रहा है और एक और विषय है जी, मैं किसी का नाम नहीं लेना चाहता, कोई भी जज का नाम, तो बस मुझे ये आपसे जानना है कि जो एक जज था उसने बोला कि मंदिर में संविधान के कानून लागू होंगे, देश के कानून लागू होंगे, पर जो धार्मिक कानून है, जो मंदिर के मर्यादा है, वो लागू नहीं हो सकती। इसके ऊपर आपकी क्या प्रतिक्रिया है सर? धन्यवाद।
हाँ, देखिए मैं अब वो स्पेसिफिक जजमेंट कौन सी है ये तो नहीं जानता, लेकिन आप जो कह रहे हैं वो सच है कि आजकल क्या हो रहा है कि हम संविधान को इस तरह से उछाल रहे हैं जैसे कि ये 70 वर्ष पुराना डॉक्यूमेंट भारत की 7000 वर्ष की परंपराओं के आगे सुपीरियर है। जो 7000 वर्ष तक हुआ, मेहरगढ़ से लेकर आज तक हुआ, और भारत की विभिन्न समाज में तरह तरह के दर्शनों में हुआ, उसका कोई महत्व नहीं है। हमारे स्मृति शास्त्र व्यवस्था, हमारे परंपराओं का कोई महत्व नहीं है। बस ये एक टुकड़ा जो है अंग्रेजी भाषा में लिखा हुआ, जिसका रटंत करके कुछ लोग इम्तिहान पास कर लेते हैं, फिर वो जुडिशियल ऑफिसर्स बन जाते हैं और फिर वो ऊपर को बढ़ते रहते हैं और इवेंचुअली फिर वो इस प्रकार की बातें कहने लगते हैं जैसे आपने कहा। तो ये हमारे शिक्षा की एक बहुत बड़ी कमी है। ये हमने अपने आप को धोखे में रखने के लिए ये सब किया हुआ है, और जब तक हम इन भ्रामक धारणाओं से नहीं हटेंगे। कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन सिविल राइट्स की बात करता है, और कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन जो है वो भी वेस्टर्न नोशंस पर बना है, और वो वेस्टर्न नोशन भी किसी धर्म से आई है। वो एनलाइटनमेंट की जितनी नोशंस हैं वो भी क्रिश्चियनिटी पर आधारित हैं, वो भी धर्म पर आधारित हैं, किसी न किसी प्रकार के धर्म पर आधारित हैं। और वो ऐसा नहीं है कि वो इतिहास में जो अलग अलग प्रकार की पद्धतियां थी और मूल्य थे, उन सबको नकार कर अपने आप को सर्वश्रेष्ठ कहने लगे। तो हमको ये समझना है, और मैं समझता हूं कि हमारे जो मिलॉर्ड्स हैं सुप्रीम कोर्ट के और हाई कोर्ट के जजेस हैं, उनको थोड़ा पारंपरिक विद्वानों से, साहित्यकारों से, कलाकारों से, उन सब से अच्छी चर्चा करनी चाहिए, एक विनयशीलता के साथ, एक कर्टसी और ह्यूमिलिटी के साथ। माफ करेंगे वो मुझे, उस ह्यूमिलिटी के साथ उनको चर्चा करनी चाहिए, आदान प्रदान करना चाहिए, तब वो न्याय करने में और निर्णय देने में अधिक सक्षम होंगे। नहीं तो भारत की जनता में और सुप्रीम कोर्ट के अंदर खिंचाव बढ़ता जाएगा, और मैं इसको देखकर बहुत दुखी हूं जो इस प्रकार का खिंचाव बढ़ रहा है, और मैं चाहता हूं कि ये खिंचाव, ये तकरार अब न रहे। ये अच्छा लक्षण नहीं।
Question from Abhishek Sharma.
जी
Sir, you mentioned blackboard and book approach in villages and city, getting better education. According to me, education in cities right now is no better than in villages. Yes, there is tech-based education, but the creativity and thinking process in city students is missing. Question is, how do you see getting city and village education better in future?
देखिए, मैंने तो आपको बताया था थोड़ी देर पहले कि मैं तो चाहता हूं कि 6 से 7 साल एक आजीविका की शिक्षा दी जाए, और उसके साथ फिर सभ्यता और नैतिकता और इस सब के मूल्यों को सिखाया जाए, लेकिन वो भी रटंत के द्वारा ना हो, वो भी कला के द्वारा हो। अगर आप पेंटिंग बनाना सिखाएंगे और उस पेंटिंग में आप कहेंगे कि अच्छा चित्र बना दो, अर्जुन का चित्र बना दो, शिवाजी का चित्र बना दो, आचार्य अभिनव गुप्त का बना दो, कालिदास का बना दो, कबीर का बना दो, और कबीर ये थे और कालिदास ये थे और रहीम ये थे, अब्दुल रहीम खान खाना ये थे, तो आप उस प्रकार मूल्य अधिक दे पाएंगे। तो आजीविका के लिए शिक्षा हो और संस्कार के लिए कला के द्वारा शिक्षा हो, दर्शन के द्वारा शिक्षा हो और धार्मिक उत्सवों के द्वारा शिक्षा हो, और धर्म में एक प्रकार से सहिष्णुता सिखाई जाए। और जो लोग ये सिखाते हैं कि मेरा धर्म ही सर्वश्रेष्ठ है या एकमात्र है, उनको समझाया जाए कि अब ऐसा नहीं चल सकता, अब दुनिया बदल गई।
I read somewhere that in the Constituent Assembly discussion
जी
on the national language, if you remember, Professor Gupta, I had asked three: national language, official language, and medium of instruction. Three different things, and the legal language. Four. Now coming back, I heard in the Constituent Assembly during the discussion on the national / official language / legal language / medium instruction, the proposal for Sanskrit was defeated by one vote. Is it true?
Another related question, अगर संस्कृत भाषा को रखा जाए तो पूरे देश में भाषा की लड़ाई समाप्त हो सकती है क्या? क्योंकि भाषाओं में संस्कृत मिलती है।
नहीं, मैंने अभी आपको उत्तर दिया कि सरल संस्कृत या हेवीली संस्कृताइज्ड हिंदी, यही दो ऑल्टरनेटिव हैं। और ये जो नंद कुमार जी ने कहा, ऐसा मैंने बहुत सुना है, लेकिन मैंने कोई इसका ठोस डॉक्यूमेंट नहीं देखा है, तो शायद वो सही ही है, लेकिन हो सकता है सही ना हो। राजेंद्र प्रसाद जी ने हिंदी के फेवर में वोट दे दिया था, तो शायद वो हो, लेकिन आज प्रैक्टिकल हमें देखना है। देखिए, बात ये है कि देश में मैंने बताया कि आधुनिक भाषा पर से ध्यान हटाकर अगर हम संस्कृत पर ध्यान ले जाएंगे तो उसका इलाज निकलेगा। अब ये आवश्यक नहीं है कि संस्कृत के लिए आप केवल संस्कृत में ही या सरल संस्कृत में ही प्रयोग करें, क्योंकि जब भाषा के गहरे प्रयोग होते हैं, जब वो डीप यूसेज होता है, तो वो सरल नहीं रह सकती, तो वो फिर क्लिष्ट भी हो जाएगी। तो इसलिए संस्कृताइज्ड हिंदी, संस्कृताइज्ड कन्नड़, संस्कृताइज्ड बांग्ला, हेवीली संस्कृताइज्ड, ये जो है यही एक हल है, क्योंकि ये हमारी लिंग्विस्टिक हिस्ट्री है। जो भारतीय भाषाएं हैं, देखिए, कभी इसके ऊपर मैं आपको एक लेक्चर करूंगा कि किस तरह से कालांतर में, आज से 600-700 साल पहले, आज से 1000 साल पहले, आज से 2000 साल पहले जो नई नई भाषाएं आई हैं, उन सबने संस्कृत में से उसके शब्द राशि में से ही अपने शब्दों को लिया है। तो ये सारी चीजें तो निरंतर होती रहती हैं। अगर आप तुलसीदास को भी देखें, तो तुलसीदास ने 400 साल पहले जो अवधि लिखी है, तो वो किसी गंवार की अवधि नहीं है। उनकी जो अवधि है वो ऐसी है, उसमें संस्कृत शब्दों का निरंतर चयन होता है। तो तुलसीदास ने भी ऐसी भाषा लिखी है और सूरदास ने भी लिखी है। जो भी व्यक्ति है, वो जब कोई विशेष प्रयोग करना चाहता है तो वो खास शब्द को लेता है, और वो शब्द भारत में संस्कृत से ही मिलता है उसको।
So is it true that Dr. Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar supported Sanskrit as India's national language? And are we living in a Malthusian cycle?
No, I think it was Rajendra Prasad who supported Hindi. You know, you're talking of the debate in Constituent Assembly, isn't it?
जी जी, कहीं पढ़ा था कि डॉक्टर भीमराव रामजी अम्बेडकर ने संस्कृत को समर्थन दिया था, तो बस आपसे राय लेना चाहूँगा।
जी हाँ, ये मैंने भी ऐसा सुना है। अब उसका कोई क्लियर डॉक्यूमेंट मैंने नहीं देखा है, so I can't say it for sure, but I have heard this. And towards the end of his career, Ambedkar said some very relevant things about Sanskrit. I am told that he also said that the greatest regret of his life was that he did not study Sanskrit. और मैं खुद अपने बारे में कहूँगा कि the greatest joy of my life is that I studied Sanskrit.